Hello, and welcome everyone. This video is part one of a four-part series introducing the Remodeled Getty Provenance Index, now in the ARCHES platform. The remodel of the Provenance Index has been a huge undertaking to ensure the longevity of this long-standing resource supported by Getty since the 1980s, to enable new uses of provenance data, and in response to a broader strategy at this institution to build a holistic digital ecosystem based on linked data and its affordances for advanced art historical research. This is a transitional period as we move platforms. Therefore, both the new and the legacy sites are running in parallel. We are excited to have put the data out in this new form so that we can explore its uses and connections as a community. The GPI is evolving, so in the months ahead we look forward to garnering your feedback to help us improve the user experience. Now you may be asking, why remodel in the first place? Well, first we realized we needed to better support our existing user base, but we also need to adapt in order to meet the needs of a growing base of users who require computational strategies for their research in provenance and other related topics. Second, and more existentially, the GPI in its legacy form is on its last legs. The first platform was developed in the 1980s and it hasn't evolved much since then. In order to make the GPI a resource that can be used for many more years to come, a new infrastructure and a significant data structure overhaul was required to bring the index into the modern digital ecosystem here at Getty. Additionally, this gave us an opportunity to enrich the GPI with explicit and fully documented semantic data models. As an open source product, we are now able to work collaboratively with a community of digital humanists, which allows us to adapt to the needs of our community and the field. And finally, the data is now not only able to be reconciled to authoritative vocabularies, it's also able to be reconciled to itself, forming explicit connections between our data that have always existed, but they have never been captured computationally or systematically. Regarding the contents of the Provenance Index, we want to make sure we answer a couple of questions right off the bat. Have the contents of the GPI changed? No. No new data has been added, and no data has been deleted. What data is included in the remodeled interface? Right now, only sales catalog and stockbook databases have been remodeled. Archival inventories is in progress, and we will let our community know as soon as it's been added to the remodeled interface. Our sales catalogs data consists of auction house and dealer sales catalogs documenting works of art offered for sale in Europe from 1650 to 1945. Sales catalogs, typically published by auction houses and art dealers, document works of art offered for public auction and private sale. This dataset includes records from Belgium, France, Germany, Great Britain, the Netherlands, and Scandinavia. The data we've extracted from more than 22,000 catalogs provides detailed insights into the sale of primarily paintings, sculptures, and drawings. These records include details from handwritten annotations and external sources, such as buyer names and prices, enabling researchers to examine patterns of art acquisition and the evolution of the global art market. Many sale catalog resources include links to digital copies of catalogs hosted elsewhere, and photocopies of most pre-20th century catalogs are also available at the Getty Library. For access to the photocopies, please reach out to the Getty Research Institute Library reference. As for our stockbooks data, it consists of transactional records from prominent galleries and dealers. These dealer stockbooks are detailed records maintained by galleries and art dealers documenting acquisitions, sales, and pricing of artworks. This includes data from the Parisian dealer Goupil & Company and their successors Boussard-Valadon & Company, which covers sales in Paris from 1846 to 1919, and the dealer M. Knoedler & Company, which covers sales in New York from 1872 to 1970. Let's dive into data models. What are they, and how are we using them? Starting with activity. For our purposes, activities are events and sub-events that provide opportunities for transfers of ownership, so auctions, lotteries, exhibition sales, and the like. We also include in activities events that relate to the individual object sets, such as the offer of a lot at auction. Next, we have groups. Groups are corporate bodies, like institutions or businesses, or they can be groups of individuals defined by a shared characteristic. Some examples of corporate body groups are dealers like Goupil, auction houses like Christie's, and museums like Getty. An example of a group comprised of individuals defined by a shared characteristic would be something like 18th century French, which is a group that comprises all anonymous French artists active in the 18th century. We also have generic groups for unspecified names like Bassano, which, without context, could be one of several Bassanos active during the same time period. And we have derived groups like Circle of such and such artist or School of such and such art movement. Next, we have the person model. A bit more straightforward, these are individual actors who are associated with an object or an event, such as an object's creator, collector, or appraiser. Our next model is physical object. These are any man-made object, which means they could be works of art, like painting, drawings, or sculptures, or they might be a piece of material culture or documents, like stock books or catalogs. Then we have the place model. Fairly straightforward, these are any geographic location associated with a person, group, or activity in our data. And now for the big one, provenance activities. For our purposes, provenance activities are any activities related to the ownership of an art object. In our data, there are transfers of ownership, transfers of custody, and the inventorying of physical objects. Then we have set. Sets are a grouping of one or more physical objects, and these are recorded as a single lot or entry in a sale catalog or inventory. Another big one, textual works. Textual work resources are text carried by physical documents in digital resources, either in whole or in part. Our textual work resources can represent the text of the whole document or individual entries. And finally, we have visual works. Visual works represent the conceptual visual content of an artwork. This image can be carried by one or more objects or digital resources. This resource is important because it allows for the content of an artwork to exist beyond the life of the object. Even if the last object carrying this image is destroyed, the visual work lives on. Now that we know our models, let's move on to linked data. In other words, how these models connect and relate to each other. The structure of the Getty Provenance Index has been remodeled from a flat file database to linked open data. In its flat file format, the legacy database presents information in a two-dimensional way, essentially mimicking a table in Excel or Google Sheets. It is called a flat database because there are only two dimensions, rows and columns, with no relationships to other data elements. This worked well insofar as it replicated transcription-based information from source documents, but as a result, all connections between information contained within the database are not explicitly made, and information is lost. Linked data models organize information in order to reflect the meaning behind the data, not just raw numbers, labels, and text strings. It is used to represent complex relationships between historical artifacts, texts, people, and events. Think of it like this. Instead of just storing data in tables, a linked data model adds context by defining what the data represents and how different pieces of data relate to each other. It's like turning a spreadsheet into a story, where the characters and their relationships are clearly defined, and upgrading text-based provenance records into structured, machine-readable data. The important thing to remember is that everything is expressed as a relationship, and every relationship is structured and standardized across models. All of this connection rests on this concept of an event-based data model. An event-based data model organizes information around events, things that happen at a specific time and place, involving people, objects, or ideas. Let's walk through a simple version of this organizational structure. Here we have our artist, and here we have a work of art. The relationship between the artist and the artwork is one of creation. Now let's take a sale event, an auction for example. This will necessarily require an auction house. The relationship here is that the auction house organizes the event of sale. Right now, there's nothing linking these two related resources, so we add the relationship between the artwork and the event of the sale. Next, our sale has some other actors linked to it. Here we have the earlier owner of this artwork participating in the event of sale as a seller. Then we have the subsequent owner of this artwork who is participating in this event of sale as a buyer. Now, all of this information is coming to us from the transcription of the original source document, in this case, a sales catalog. The relationship between the source document and the event is one of documentation. As you can see, the existence of this event is what brings all of these points together, and it defines their relationship to the event, to the object, and to each other. This graph currently emphasizes the way data types connect to each other, but I'm going to flip this now to show how the models we discussed earlier are represented in these relationships. Understanding how each model connects is very useful for understanding the logic behind our data model, and it will help you to navigate the data successfully. So, to summarize, this way of modeling atomizes the data. This means there is a resource for the physical copy of a catalog, and another resource for the text carried within the catalog. Auction events carry information about the event of the whole sale, and information about the specific case of the auction of a particular lot is its own resource. Knowing this means we have to shift our research strategies to ask, what is it that you are actually looking for? And what information do you have to start investigating your question? And of course, then, how do these two things connect in order to search each other? We will explore the new interface in part 2 of this video series. However, before we end, I would like to share with you some exciting new features on the horizon for the Getty Provenance Index. Let's talk about some more new and exciting things that are being worked on as we speak. To start, more saved searches. We will explore the saved search feature in detail in future videos, but we want to put out the call to all of our users. What kind of searches do you need? What are the searches you want to have handy in our search menu? We populate that with feedback directly from our users, so please let us know what you would like to see. Next, we are developing a map feature to plot all of the location information we have in our data on an interactive map. Then, of course, we will have archival inventories joining sales catalogs and stock books in the Remodeled platform. We are eager to see what connections can be made explicitly between these datasets. Then we are exploring more user-friendly ways to query the data via the Sparkle endpoint, which is the query language for semantic data. We hope this will facilitate more powerful and complex queries. And we have new data coming. We have auction data from American sales catalogs to add to the Remodeled Index in the future. And finally, we are continuously working with developers to update and improve the Remodeled Index's interface to make it more intuitive and user-friendly. All of the improvements we make are driven by user feedback. We sincerely want to hear all of your suggestions and comments about how we can make the Provenance Index work for you. Please keep practicing with the Remodeled GPI, and again, we welcome your continued feedback on the platform. If you run into any problems we want to make a correction within the data, or have any questions regarding the Provenance Index, please reach out to us via the feedback form, which is on the GPI's homepage. You can also use this form to request other topics for future videos that can get more specific and really dig into a particular topic. Thank you for your interest, and we will see you in the next video.